Is Red Bull's car truly the reason behind this winless streak? Or is it the catalyst for Max Verstappen activating a performance-linked exit clause? That clause was triggered because he sits roughly 110 points behind championship leader Kimi Antonelli at the summer break. This specific contractual condition has transformed a technical discussion into an existential crisis for the team. Red Bull has not won a single race through 11 Grand Prix in the 2026 season. This marks their first winless half-season since 2015 when Verstappen was still at Toro Rosso. The question is not whether the RB22 is slow, because the results already confirm that reality. The deeper issue is whether this mechanical failure has created an irreversible breach before October. You might assume the answer lies solely in lap times and telemetry data, yet there is a contradiction emerging from the paddock that complicates the picture. Resolving this requires understanding why a champion describes his current reality as pure survival. Verstappen stated over team radio that the car is undriveable and they have never had anything this bad. He blames the package entirely, citing car degradation rather than tire management issues. But the narrative fractures here because the contractual fallout suggests the problem is now political. Former Ferrari engineer Rob Smedley rated Red Bull just 5 out of 10 in a mid-season television assessment. He noted that there is a different problem every weekend for the team. This validates the driver's frustration but does not explain the internal response. Reports suggest the team restricted Verstappen's media access instead of fixing the balance issues. This creates an open loop we cannot close immediately. If the car is genuinely undriveable, why does the reaction feel like damage control? The reported exit window runs from the summer break through October 2026. Every radio message now carries the weight of a potential contract termination. The stakes are concrete and time-bound rather than theoretical speculation. Verstappen sits around 6th in the standings with 109 points through 11 rounds. He has secured 4 podiums but remains statistically far from his previous dominance. He recovered from 6th to 2nd at the Hungarian Grand Prix despite the car's issues. This proved his racecraft remains elite even when the package fails him. Yet the underlying tension persists because the root cause involves the new Ford power unit. Verstappen says he has not enjoyed this car from lap 1 of the new regulation. Technical failures are documented, but the human cost makes this streak dangerous. We must determine if the car is the real reason for this drought. The answer decides whether Red Bull can convince their star to stay past the deadline. The specific trigger for this contractual escape route is no longer a hypothetical scenario discussed in boardrooms. It is now an active reality defined by the official championship standings at the mid-season checkpoint. Verstappen entered the summer break sitting approximately 6th in the driver's table. The gap to Mercedes leader Kimi Antonelli stands at roughly 110 points. This exact deficit satisfied the reported condition that allows him to terminate his deal early. His current contract technically runs through the end of 2028. However, his camp insisted on inserting this performance clause due to long-standing apprehension about the 2026 rules overhaul. They feared the new power unit formula and lighter chassis philosophy would create precisely this kind of competitive disaster. That fear has now materialized into a binding legal mechanism. Red Bull reportedly offered a new 1-year extension to 2029 with a higher salary to remove this clause entirely. German outlet Bild specifically detailed this proposal as an attempt to secure his future without exit options. Here is where the story twists unexpectedly. You might assume such a lucrative offer would be accepted immediately given the team's desperate position, but Jos Verstappen publicly dismissed these extension rumors on X in early August 2026. He responded to reports about removing the exit clause with a blunt statement saying, "You know absolutely nothing." This direct contradiction turns a standard contract negotiation into an unresolved dispute. We cannot confirm if the Bild report was accurate or merely speculative noise. What we do know is that Verstappen has not accepted any new offer as of early August. His manager Raymond Vermeulen stated via ESPN that Max wants to finish his time with Red Bull. Vermeulen emphasized that he has a contract until 2028 and would like to fulfill it. Yet Verstappen himself has refused to commit publicly to staying past this season. This silence speaks louder than any official press release. So where does that leave the championship picture right now? The 11-race winless streak provides the statistical foundation for every contractual argument being made behind closed doors. 4 podiums and 109 points are respectable numbers for most drivers. For a 4-time champion accustomed to dominance, they represent a catastrophic failure of machinery. The rear wing failure during Hungary qualifying highlighted safety concerns alongside pure performance deficits. Verstappen described those moments as becoming dangerous for himself. Safety issues compound the frustration of losing races because they erode trust in the engineering department. Trust is the currency that keeps a driver committed during difficult regulation changes. Without it, even a massive salary increase feels insufficient. The October deadline looms larger with every passing week. Teams watching from the sidelines understand this timeline perfectly. They know the window to negotiate is finite and shrinking. Pressure mounts daily, time runs out, options narrow fast. Verstappen's most damning indictment came not in a press conference, but over team radio during the heat of competition. He told his engineers the car is undrivable and they have never had anything this bad with everything together. This was not a momentary lapse of concentration or a single setup error. It was a systemic rejection of the entire RB22 package across multiple race weekends in 2026. He explicitly identified car degradation as the primary enemy, stating that if you have a balance problem that changes from lap to lap, it becomes very complicated. Tire management has always been a skill in Formula 1, but he clarified that they do not have tire degradation anymore. The chassis itself is falling apart underneath him as fuel loads shift and aerodynamic platforms stall. Can a driver truly extract performance when the fundamental reference point moves beneath their feet every few corners? The answer appears to be no, based on his own description of the driving experience. Verstappen stated he cannot even put a bit of a reference in because every lap is like survival. He admitted he cannot push at all because the car simply does not let him. This language goes far beyond typical complaints about understeer or brake temperatures. Survival implies an active threat to personal safety and competitive integrity simultaneously. From lap 1 of this new regulation, he confirmed he has not enjoyed this car for sure. Enjoyment might seem secondary to results, but for a driver of his caliber, confidence and feedback are prerequisites for speed. Without them, the feedback loop between driver and engineer breaks down completely. The in-house Ford power unit compounds these chassis woes by delivering inconsistent energy deployment. Red Bull split from Honda after 2025 to pursue independent development, but the transition has proven far more turbulent than anticipated. Engine struggles persist. Power delivery falters. Confidence evaporates instantly. External validation of these internal struggles arrived through a particularly harsh mid-season television assessment. Former Ferrari engineer Rob Smedley rated Red Bull just 5 out of 10 during his broadcast analysis. He stated plainly that Red Bull should be just doing so much better given their resources and recent history. This verdict carries weight because it comes from someone who understands elite team operations intimately. Smedley identified the core issue as inconsistency rather than a single fatal flaw. He observed that there is a different problem every weekend or something like that for the Milton Keynes squad. One race might feature rear wing failures while the next suffers from energy deployment issues. This pattern prevents the engineering team from establishing a stable development baseline. How can you fix a car when the symptoms change before the cure is even tested? The 5 out of 10 rating reflects more than just lap time deficits against Mercedes or McLaren. It measures organizational coherence under extreme regulatory pressure. Teams that dominate typically solve problems systematically rather than reactively. Red Bull's current approach appears chaotic by comparison, with fixes introducing new complications elsewhere on the vehicle. Smedley's assessment aligns perfectly with Verstappen's radio complaints about unpredictable balance shifts. When the driver and the external expert describe the same dysfunction independently, the diagnosis becomes undeniable. Technical director Pierre Walquet maintains a public target of winning a race before the season ends. Yet achieving that goal requires solving multiple interconnected failures simultaneously. The ongoing RB22 development program continues despite these setbacks, but progress remains frustratingly nonlinear. Every upgrade package arrives with hope, but departs with unanswered questions. Data confirms chaos, fixes fail repeatedly, development stalls completely. Remember how this all started, with the question of whether Red Bull's car is truly the reason behind this winless streak, or if it has already become the catalyst for activating that performance-linked exit clause. That opening tension now collides directly with conflicting reports about contract negotiations. German outlet Bild claimed Red Bull offered a 1-year extension to 2029 with higher salary and no exit clauses to secure Verstappen's future. This report suggested the team was willing to pay a premium to eliminate the very contractual mechanism we discussed earlier, but Jos Verstappen publicly shut down those rumors on X in early August 2026. His exact words were, "You know absolutely nothing," posted in response to speculation about removing the exit clause. This creates a narrative twist that demands careful handling. We cannot treat the Bild report as confirmed fact when a primary source directly contradicts its substance. What remains known is that Verstappen has not accepted any new offer as of the reporting window. What remains unknown is whether the extension ever existed in the form described or was merely paddock speculation amplified by media outlets. This contradiction matters because it reveals the information vacuum surrounding Red Bull's retention strategy. Teams do not typically negotiate contract extensions through social media denials. The fact that Jos felt compelled to issue such a blunt correction suggests the rumors had gained enough traction to require intervention. Yet his dismissal does not clarify what actual discussions are taking place behind closed doors. Raymond Vermeulen's statement that Max wants to finish his time with Red Bull provides one data point. Verstappen's refusal to commit publicly past 2026 provides another. These two positions can coexist without resolving the underlying uncertainty. The October deadline continues to approach regardless of which version of events is accurate. Every day that passes without a signed extension narrows Red Bull's leverage further. Competing teams understand this calculus perfectly well. They are watching the same contradictory signals and drawing their own conclusions about availability. Silence speaks volumes. Rumors persist unchecked. Truth stays hidden. Beyond the immediate contractual disputes and on-track frustrations lies a deeper structural vulnerability that complicates Red Bull's retention efforts. Adrian Newey's departure to Aston Martin was confirmed well before the 2026 season began, yet its impact continues to reverberate through every technical decision made at Milton Keynes. His absence created a leadership vacuum that no single replacement has fully filled during this turbulent regulation cycle. Simultaneously, ongoing speculation surrounds race engineer Gianpiero Lambiase's future, with coverage linking him to opportunities elsewhere in the paddock. These personnel storylines are not new breaking news, but they form the critical backdrop against which Verstappen evaluates his long-term prospects. A driver does not commit to a team based solely on current car performance. He assesses whether the organization can sustain excellence over multiple seasons. When the architect of past championships has departed and his primary trackside liaison faces an uncertain future, confidence and institutional stability naturally erodes. Can Red Bull convince their star driver that the foundation remains solid despite these visible cracks? The answer depends on whether Verstappen believes the team can rebuild its technical hierarchy before the October window closes. Lambiase's relationship with Verstappen has been foundational to their success, built on years of shared experience and mutual trust. Losing that connection would compound the challenges posed by an already difficult car development cycle. Newey's move to Aston Martin also means Red Bull now competes against a rival led by the very mind that shaped their previous dominance. This creates psychological pressure alongside competitive pressure. Every strong qualifying session from Aston Martin serves as a reminder of what was lost.